Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifested as Ramana, we commence today's satsang with a prayer by Srimati Sapna Ganesh, followed by the chanting of Muktakatrayam verses by Nandakumarji.
दक्षिणामूर्तिसारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमां रमणाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् शुक्लां वरदरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये आङ्गिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नमः सात्विकं शिवम् ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय. Namo Ramana to everyone.
Ekam aksharam hृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम्. हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् अहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति. हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मध्यता अवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भात्वम्. देहं मृण्मयम् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तभावशक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावः. कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो रधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विहाति स्वयं. सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं नमो रमण
Namo Ramana. We continue with chanting of verses from Upadesha Saram by Revathi Shankar.
ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय। इदमहं पदाभिख्यमन्वहम् अहमिलीनकेऽप्यलयसत्तया विग्रहेन्द्रिय प्राणधीतमा नाहमेकसत् तज्जडं ह्यसत् सत्त्वभासिका चित्क्वमेतरा सत्तया हि चित्तया ह्यहम् ईशजीवयोर्वेषधीभिदा सत्स्वभावतो वस्तु केवलम् वेषहानतः स्वात्मदर्शनम् ईशदर्शनम् स्वात्मरूपतः आत्मसंस्थितिः स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्द्वयादात्मनिष्ठता ज्ञानवर्जिता अज्ञानहीनचित् ज्ञानमस्ति किं ज्ञातुमन्तरम् किं स्वरूपम् इत्यात्मदर्शने अव्यया भवा आपूर्णचित्सुखम् बन्धमुक्त्यतीतं परं सुखम् विन्दतीह जीवस्तु दैविक अहमपेतकं निजविभानकं महदिदं तपो रमणवागियम्। नमो रमण।
Namo Ramana. We go on to Ramananjali Sangeetam. The first two songs will be presented first by Radha along with Vallabh, and the second one by Pratibha Sundaresh.
Namo Ramana to all. Today we have taken a song composed by P.S. Dikshit. नैनों का सितारा स्वामी रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा नैनों का सितारा स्वामी रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा दीनहीन दुखियों का तू है दीनहीन दुखियों का तू है एक ही सहारा स्वामी रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा शांत मूर्ति सिंधु कृपा का शांत मूर्ति सिंधु कृपा का योगेश्वर तू प्रिय भक्तों का योगेश्वर तू प्रिय भक्तों का आनंद रूप में मग्न सुमंगल आनंद रूप में मग्न सुमंगल ध्यान अनोखा न्यारा रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा तू शुभदायक तू सुखकारक तू शुभदायक तू सुखकारक वेद परायण तू नारायण वेद परायण तू नारायण मानव को गुरु मंत्र सुना दे मानव को गुरु मंत्र सुना दे हे जगदोदारा स्वामी रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा नैनों का सितारा स्वामी रमण देव प्यारा, सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा, सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा, सद्गुरु रमण देव प्यारा। नमो रमण।
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. This is a English translation of Bhagwan's composition by Professor K. Swaminathan and music set by Sri Raghunathan. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. O moon of grace, with your cool rays, touch my heart and open the floodgates of nectar within. Now fragrant as a flower is my mind, and to it your fragrance perfect, and let it remain infinite. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Look at me, think of me, touch me, make me fit, ripen me, then my master be, govern me. Look at me, think of me, touch me, make me fit, ripen me, then my master be, govern me, 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 govern me. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. In the house of open space, where neither night nor day there is, come let's sport in blaze. In the house of open space, where neither night nor day there is, come let's sport in blaze. Come let's sport in blaze. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, infinite, 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 infinite. Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Namo Ramana.
Ramana. The next Ramananjali song will be presented by Sakti Krishna and Deshiram Krishna, and following that will be presentation by Revathi Shankar.
தலைவாணி என்னை களவினில் கொணர்ந்து உன் தாடி நின்னாள் வரை வைத்தாய். தலைவாணி என்னை களவினில் கொணர்ந்து உன் தாடி நின்னாள் வரை வைத்தாய். தலைவானின் தன்மை என்ன என்பார்க்கு தலை குனிச்சுகள் என வைத்தாய். தலைவாணி என்னை களவினில் கொணர்ந்து உன் தாடினில் நாள் வரை வைத்தாய். தலைவனான் வலைமான் தலை நிகராதன் தளவின கழிவு நாடிடுவாய். தலைவனான் வலைமான் தனை நிகராதன் தளர்வின கழிவு நாடிடுவாய். தலைவனாம் அருணாச்சலா உளம் மேகா தமிழநாதனை உணர்தற்கே. தமிழநாதனை உணர்தற்கே. தலைவாணி என்னை களவினில் கொணர்ந்து உன் தாடி நின்னாள் வரை வைத்தாய். பரமனாம் அருணாச்சலா என்னை இனி உன் பதத்தினின்று ஒதுக்குற பாரே. பரமனாம் அருணாச்சலா பரமனின் பாதம் பற்றற பற்றும் பரவரி வரியலில் பரமன். பரமுனக்கென என் பணியற பணியாய் பரித்திடும் உனக்கெது பாரம். பரமனில் பிரிந்து உலகினில் தலையில் பற்றியான் பெற்றது போதும். பரமனாம் அருணாச்சலா பார்த்தனன் புதுமை உயிர் பலி காந்த பருவதம் ஒரு தரம் இதனை ஓர்த்திடும் உயிரின் சேஷ்டையை ஒடுக்கி ஒரு தனக விமுகமாக ஈர்த்ததை தன் போல் அச்சலமா செய்தோ இன்னுயிர் பலி கொள்ளும் நித்தன். ஓட்டுமின் உயிர்காள் உளமதில் ஒளிர் உயிர் கொளி அருணமாகிரியே. பரமனாம் அருணாச்சலா என்னை நீ உன் பதத்தினின்று ಕುರಪಾರೆ ಪರಮನ ಮರುಣಾಚಲ ಪಾಳಿವಿ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ. ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ಶ್ರೀರಮಣಾಯ.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. By the immense grace of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, we are meditating on Ramana Suprabhatam. रौतीह पक्षिनिवहः परितो मयूराः त्वद्रूपसन्निधिवियोगवशादिवैव त्वामाह्वयन्ति पशवो निजगोष्ठकोणात् आनन्दचित्रमणभो तव सुप्रभातम् रौतीह पक्षिनिवहः परितो मयूराः त्वद्रूपसन्निधिवियोगवशादिवैव त्वामाह्वयन्ति पशवो निजगोष्ठकोणात् आनन्दचित्रमणभो तव सुप्रभातम्. Good morning, O Ramana, the supreme conscious bliss. Flocks of birds and peacocks, as though unable to bear their separation from you, are calling aloud. Cows from their places in the cowsheds are moving to welcome you. When the sun rises, there is activity rising from within. Since we are in connect with the self, though unconsciously all through the night, we want to go back to it consciously. The whole universe wants to go back to the self. For those who are unable to or don't have the strength to do so, compassionately, Ramana has come taking a form. So all of us want to see him, including the birds, the peacocks, the cows, the koil, the mountains, the trees, the rivers, and the air. All of them are welcoming Ramana to this world. Presenting a song written by Dr. Dodrange Gowda, music by Sri H.K. Narayana. ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಾಮ್ಯಗೆ ಕಿರಣ ವೀರ್ಯಾವೋ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯ ಮಹಿಮೆ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಾಮ್ಯಗೆ ಕಿರಣ ವೀರ್ಯಾವೋ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯ ಮಹಿಮೆ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ಟೊಂಗೆ ಟೊಂಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾಗೆ ಹಕ್ಕಿ ಹಾಡ್ಯಾವೋ ಟೊಂಗೆ ಟೊಂಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾಗೆ ಹಕ್ಕಿ ಹಾಡ್ಯಾವೋ ನಮ್ಮಪ್ಪ ಕಾಯೋ ರಮಣ ನಮ್ಮಪ್ಪ ಕಾಯೋ ರಮಣ ಅಂತ ಬೇಡ್ಯಾವೋ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಾಮ್ಯಗೆ ಕಿರಣ ವೀರ್ಯಾವೋ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯ ಮಹಿಮೆ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ಭೇದ ಭಾವ ಒಂದು ತೋರ್ದೆ ನದಿಗಳ್ ಹರಿದಾವೋ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಸ್ನೇಹ ನೀಡೋ ರಮಣ ಗುರುವ ನೆನೆದಾವೋ ಭೇದ ಭಾವ ಒಂದು ತೋರ್ದೆ ನದಿಗಳ್ ಹರಿದಾವೋ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಸ್ನೇಹ ನೀಡೋ ರಮಣ ಗುರುವ ನೆನೆದಾವೋ ಜಾತಿ ಗೀತಿ ಏನಿಲ್ಲಂತ ಗಾಳಿ ಬೀಸ್ಯಾವೋ ಜಾತಿ ಗೀತಿ ಏನಿಲ್ಲಂತ ಗಾಳಿ ಬೀಸ್ಯಾವೋ ಬೀಸೋ ಗಾಳಿಯಾಗಿ ರಮಣ ಪದವ ಕೇಳ್ಯಾವೋ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಾಮ್ಯಗೆ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಾಮ್ಯಗೆ ಕಿರಣ ಬೀರ್ಯಾವೋ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯ ಮಹಿಮೆ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ಕುಹು ಕುಹು ಅಂತ ಚೈತ್ರ ಕೋಗಿಲೆ ಕೂಗ್ಯಾವೋ ಕೂಗಿನಾಗೂ ರಮಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮಾತು ಮೂಡ್ಯಾವೋ ಕುಹು ಕುಹು ಅಂತ ಚೈತ್ರ ಕೋಗಿಲೆ ಕೂಗ್ಯಾವೋ ಕೂಗಿನಾಗೂ ರಮಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮಾತು ಮೂಡ್ಯಾವೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಡಿನಾಗೆ ಹೂವು ಅರಳ್ಯಾವೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಡಿನಾಗೆ ಹೂವು ಅರಳ್ಯಾವೋ ಹೂವಿನಾಗೆ ರಮಣ ಗುರುವ ಹೂವಿನಾಗೆ ರಮಣ ಗುರುವ ನಗೆಯ ಸೂಸ್ಯಾವೋ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಾಮ್ಯಗೆ ಕಿರಣ ಬೀರ್ಯಾವೋ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯ ಮಹಿಮೆ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ಕಾಡಿನೋಡಲು ಶಾಂತ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮೊಗವ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ಯೋಗಿ ಗುರು ರಮಣನ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಗುರುತು ಕಂಡ್ಯಾವೋ ಕಾಡಿನೋಡಲು ಶಾಂತ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಮೊಗವ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ಯೋಗಿ ಗುರು ರಮಣನ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಗುರುತು ಕಂಡ್ಯಾವೋ ಬೆಟ್ಟ ಗುಡ್ಡ ಮೌನವಾಗಿ ಪದವ ಹೇಳ್ಯಾವೋ ಬೆಟ್ಟ ಗುಡ್ಡ ಮೌನವಾಗಿ ಪದವ ಹೇಳ್ಯಾವೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ರಮಣ ಮುನಿಗಳ ಜಪವ ಮಾಡ್ಯಾವೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ರಮಣ ಮುನಿಗಳ ಜಪವ ಮಾಡ್ಯಾವೋ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಾಮ್ಯಗೆ ಕಿರಣ ಬೀರ್ಯಾವೋ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯ ಮಹಿಮೆ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ಮಹಿಮೆ ತೋರ್ಯಾವೋ ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.
Namo Ramana. We now have the reading and the sharing by Nanda Kumarji. This will be followed by the self-inquiry session also conducted by Nanda Kumarji today.
Namo Ramana. In this book reading segment of our Satsangh, we are reading from the book Forever is in the Now, the timeless message of Sri Ramana Maharshi, edited and compiled by our founder president, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. We had gone through the foreword by the former president of India, R. Venkatraman, and we had also gone through the introduction given by the founder president to the work. We are going into the compilation of the articles by various great ones. There is a note of who is who preceding the work. What I have thought of is, as we read the article, we can read the description about the author. So I begin with the description about R. Venkatramanji. our former president, a small description is there. Former president of India, he has received the blessings of Sri Ramana Maharishi in 1937. He was president of Ramanacentre Delhi for several years. There are about 34 other contributors. The first one we are going to see today is Swami Abhishektananda. The introduction to him, small short introduction, who is who? A Christian monk who had been attracted to the Advaitic experience, author of several books, Satchidananda, The Secret of Arunachala, Further Shore, and Guru and Disciple. So we go to the contribution from Swami Abhishektananda. The title given is The Inward Quest. Ramana Maharishi's spiritual method, if one can use this term by analogy, why he uses this is, there are clear methods in other teachings of yoga. So we have to call this also a method in comparison, is the indication, whereas it need not be necessarily bracketed as a method. If one can use this term by analogy, contain none of the complexities of yoga. It flowed in the most natural manner from his experience. All he wanted to do was to help others to discover within themselves what he himself had one day so abruptly experienced. To any who sought him out and sincerely asked him what to do in order to make progress spiritually, Sri Ramana regularly recommended the practice of the koham, that is, of asking the mental question, who am I? This is what he called Atma Vicharana, the inquiry into the Atman, that is to say, the quest for and pursuit of the self within the self. The first self he has used capital letter, and the second self he has used small, indicating that within that ego the Paramatman resides, and that is whom we have to pursue. The quest for the pursuit of the self within the self beyond all its external manifestations. It consists in piercing through to the deepest centers of consciousness, just the opposite of the usual centrifugal movement of thought. Centrifugal is when a rotating power is there, the object in the periphery is thrown out. So there is an outward movement in that rotational movement, that is called. So he says all thoughts have this rotational character of going round and round in pattern. So not only they go round and round, they also push us out. That's what he says. Like a top, if you play, when it is in speed, when it is very fast, then it will also have a rotation along with the revolution. So that's what he calls the centrifugal force of thought. That is, it consists in piercing through the deepest centers of the consciousness, just as the opposite of the usual centrifugal movement of thought, and so in penetrating from thought to thought, or more exactly, from a given thought to the consciousness that one has of thinking, that thought, then to the consciousness of that consciousness, and so on. In particular, this inquiry or investigation should be directed to the thought of I and the consciousness of the self, which underlie all mental and psychic processes. The goal is to reach that precise place in ourselves where all thoughts, beginning with the I thought, the thought of the self, well up at the deep center of our being. In his Upadesha Saram, Sri Ramana calls this point the place of welling up. But here is the paradox, that the trickle of water issues from the spring, but as soon as it becomes a stream, it is the spring no longer. So the goal continually escapes us. So he is using the analogy of a small spring starting on mountain top, but as it gathers strength, it becomes a wider stream and into a river. That is how our thought process also works in another sense. starts as a small thought, then it becomes a stream, then a river, and it becomes very difficult to go to the source. So the goal continually escapes us. Some people used to interpret his teachings as a way of progressive denial. I am not this body, this hand, this thought, etc. The Maharishi did not prevent beginners from starting in this way if they found it helpful, but he was careful to warn them about the dangers of such a method. Any progressive method has a danger, he says. Even in self-inquiry, if you start by one area after another, that has a danger, he says. In point of fact, to pay attention to any particular thought, even if only to deny it, to recall a memory, even if only to reject it, runs the risk of investing them with fresh strength and thus fixing them firmly in the mind, whereas one's effort should be aimed precisely at getting rid of them. So he says, the step-by-step progressive method, what happens is, you are made to think of one area, then let it go, but the very act of thinking of that area gives a small impetus or energy to that thought which is not necessary. As and when any thought arises, hold the eye. Not look at what kind of thought and progressively I have to leave these thoughts, the non-functional thoughts first, then functional thoughts I will leave. All that is dangerous, says the author. The way that the Maharishi recommended is essentially positive. It consists in trying to find out at every instant, in every act, who in truth it is that lives, thinks, and acts, and in being attentive to the seer in the act of seeing, to the hearer in the act of hearing, and so forth. It is a matter of constantly, relentlessly pursuing this consciousness of oneself, which hides behind the phenomena and the events of the cyclic life, of discovering it, seizing it in its original purity before anything else has covered it over or adulterated it. Thus seized, it has to be held in the fine point of the spirit to prevent it from escaping again. This means, in fact, trying to reach oneself, one's identity, beyond and beneath the level of manifestation. Sri Ramana was perfectly sure that this investigation could not fail to bear fruit, provided it was pursued unflaggingly. The phenomenal self, the surface I, if pursued to its last stronghold, will in the end disappear as if by magic, like a thief surprised in the act who runs for dear life. The essential will then shine in solitary glory in the consciousness which has been stilled and will fill it entirely. If, however, anyone believed himself called to follow the more complicated paths of yoga, the Maharishi did not stand in his way. He never thrust his views upon anyone. When a man is not yet ready for it, why force him to take a path beyond his capacity? Why try to anticipate the hour? The Indian philosophy of karma teaches us to avoid the hour in patience and not to get discouraged on account of the slowness of man's personal growth. The goal will eventually be reached by each one at the moment appointed by destiny. For himself, however, Sri Ramana went directly to the essentials of yoga and invited those who entrusted themselves to him to do likewise, while he abandoned to their illusions those who merely sought his approval for decisions which they had already taken. There was just one breathing exercise which he did indeed recommend, but even that was only for those who had special difficulty in stilling their bodies and minds. This was to fix the attention on the act of breathing and consciously to follow the process of inhaling and exhaling, just as in the valuable practice of Japanese zazen. Such attention and concentration of itself establishes a rhythm and automatically slows down the rate of breathing. The movement of the mind soon adjusts itself correspondingly, becomes more regular, slows down in its turn, and makes room or the inner silence? The essential question. Sri Ramana never himself practiced any yoga or any special kind of spiritual discipline. The transforming experience struck him like a thunderbolt. People around him concluded that he must have practiced extraordinary austerities in the course of his previous lives. Thus, he must have accumulated so much merit that almost as soon as he entered this present existence, he reaped their fruits. This question, however, was of very little interest to the Maharishi. Strictly speaking, what is meant by a previous life or by a life to come? In this life, which we call present, is there not a continual change and alteration? Every night at the moment of falling asleep, the consciousness that one has of oneself vanishes. When we wake up again, we become conscious once more. Is not that just what happens at the time of death and rebirth? Successive lives are after all of the same order as successive days and successive moments in so-called particular life. All are on the plane of the fleeting and evanescent phenomenal world and are quite unimportant and insignificant in comparison with the real, the changeless, the self. Everything is utterly simple, as Sri Ramana constantly reminded all who would listen to him. There is nothing that has to be striven for, nothing as yet unpossessed, which we have to attain. Who, he asked, would strive for or attain what? It is enough to become aware of what one is. All the rest comes of itself. All the problems of life, whether speculative or practical, are ipso facto seen to be solved. The sage does not deny these problems or evade them through forgetfulness or indifference, but they will continue to reappear again and again so long as the essential problem has not been solved. It is to that fundamental problem that one must address oneself, for it governs the destiny of man and contains all the others. When, for instance, he was asked how to control the fear of death, that last and most agonizing concern of human heart, the Maharishi simply replied, find out first who fears death. That in you which fears death, is it not that little ego, which is already dying in every passing moment? Find out who you really are, and you will discover that this I, which is afraid, is itself ephemeral, and indeed that it vanishes when you try to reach it. It cannot be grasped, for it is without substance. But you yourself are. You are beyond all change and decay, and in fact, neither old age, nor death, nor fear are able to touch you. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. We'll continue the same article by Bhagavan's grace. Namo Ramana. For the self-inquiry segment, I am taking the support of Bhagavan's Upadesham, indicated by Shri Murugal Venkatramaya sir in the work Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, particularly in Talk 91. A Bengali visitor asked, how is the mind controlled? Maharishi, what do you call the mind? Devotee, when I sit down to think of God, thoughts wander away to other objects. I want to control thoughts. One of my very old associates used to tell me, we met after a long time, was quite senior person in the organization that I was working, and he remarked when we met in Ramanacentre that I chant Vishnu Sahasranama. But I find that suddenly I have gone from the 10th Nama to 100th Nama without holding any of the Namas. My mind has gone elsewhere, and then suddenly I have come back. So like that, this devotee is already starting with some sadhana. So he is saying, when I sit down to think of God, thoughts wander away to other objects. I want to control those thoughts. Maharishi, In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that it is the nature of the mind to wander. One must bring one's thoughts to bear on God. By long practice, the mind is controlled and made steady. The wavering of mind is a weakness arising from dissipation of its energy in the shape of thoughts. When one makes the mind stick to one thought, that energy is conserved and the mind becomes stronger. The mind becomes stronger in its tapasvic energy, not in the worldly desires. So, in what sense the mind is stronger? One has to be clear while reading the talks. The mind becomes stronger when it stops dissipating energy by following thoughts. That energy is available for turning inward. What is the meaning of the strength of mind, Maharishi? Its ability to concentrate on one thought without being distracted. That is strength of mind. Devotee, how is that achieved? Maharishi, by practice. A devotee concentrates on God. A seeker, follower of the Jnana Marga, seeks the self. The practice is equally difficult for both. Devotee, even if the mind is brought to bear on the search for the self, after a long struggle, the mind begins to elude him, and the man is not aware of the mischief until after some time. So same problem is there in self-inquiry, that the mind has gone after thoughts and gone into a wandering. After some time, I realize that I have forgotten the self and start. Maharshi, so it would be. In the earlier stages, the mind reverts to the search at long intervals. With continued practice, it reverts at shorter intervals until finally it does not wander at all. It is then that the dormant Shakti manifests. The Sattvic mind is free from thoughts, whereas the Rajasic mind is full of them. The Sattvic mind resolves itself into the life current, the aham, 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 iti sakshat atmarupena bhati. That life current, the Sattvic mind, which has obeyed Bhagavan's teachings, which has submitted itself to the Upadeshan, and with repeated practice, overcome the long periods of wandering and stayed the course by Bhagavan's grace, shorten the wanderings, then come to the point where wandering is not there at all. The happiness at the source of the I is so explicit and so clear, so it does not wander at all. At that point, one has to continue to hold that Sat. That is when the dormant Shakti, the Sattva Apatti of self-realization happens. The stages in the sadhana, the Subhecha, the Vicharana, the Tanumanasi, all are steps towards the Sattva Apatti, where the dormant Shakti, which is running the whole cosmos, that rises and says, Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shivaha Purno Vibhati Swayam. The inquiry is answered by Arunachala Shiva, the I, the being consciousness. Till then, one should not live despite the mind going here and there. Devotee, can one keep the mind away from entering into the phase of thoughts before one experiences the current? I have not experienced the aham aham. How can I get rid of the thoughts? Bhagavan, yes, the current is pre-existent. Whether we know it or not, whether we feel it or not, that Shakti is underlying all sadhana, all creation. So it helps, whether we know it or not, it helps in sadhana to let go of thoughts. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in practice of Atma Ucharan. In both the book reading and in the talk, we have covered enough of instructions from Bhagavan himself, so we can sit for practice directly. Revathi, you set the time for us. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We go on to the sharing from David Kalatra by Venkatesh Deshpande.
Hastamalakara.
It is Devi Kalotram is by Kala, Hastamalaka by Venkatesh Deshpande.
Thank you, Doctor. Oh. Dakshinamurti Sarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhasha Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punaha Punaha Oh. We're doing manana on Hastamalaka. Why are we doing manana on Hastamalaka? Is to get Drida Aproksha Jnanam, direct knowledge which is doubtless. So here is where Shankaracharya asks Hastamalaka various questions. O child, who are you? Whom do you belong to? Where are you going or heading? What is your name? From where have you come? So these are questions that have been asked to the little boy of 7. So the answers he gives obviously are what is there in Hastamalaka. So yes, the last satsang, what we did was we read the 9th verse where there was another doubt may arise that the sun is at one place, but the Atman is omnipresent. So how can it remain untouched? So this can be understood with an example. In a pot filled with water, the sky is reflected and appears to become wet. Actually, however, it is not conditioned by the water in the pot. Similarly, in Chidakasha, the feelings of the mind, intellect are reflected, showing joys and sorrows or papa punya, but the self is not affected. One who has attained liberation is beyond the pairs of opposite dvandva. He has realized that he is the Atman and not the body. So he is not attached to any enjoyment. But for a seeker who has not reached that stage, worldly affairs are real. So he is asked to abstain from enjoyment. I am of the nature of that ever-existing Atman, is what Hastamaka asserts. O Guru, by thy grace, I know that I am unattached to merit, demerit, pleasure and pain. I am Chidatma, who makes the intellect perceive without myself becoming perceiver. I make the senses enjoy without myself being the enjoyer. I am in the body, but I am not the body. I reside where there is no space for space. So the Vedas say that the sun is the Atman of the Jagat. About that, a doubt is raised. If the sun is the Atman of the Jagat, then Surya Darshana must be Atma Darshana or self-realization. How can it be? In the next verse, Hastamalaka clarifies this doubt. So we will have the verse number 10. I request Sapna to kindly chant the verse, please.
Yes, sir. विवस्वत्प्रभातं यथा रूपमक्षं प्रगृह्णाति नाभातमेवं विवस्वान् यदा भाताभासयत्यक्षमेकः स नित्योपलब्धिस्वरूपोऽहमात्मा विवस्वत्प्रभातं यथा रूपमक्षं प्रगृह्णाति नाभातमेवं विवस्वान् यदा भाताभासयत्यक्षमेकः स नित्योपलब्धिस्वरूपोऽहमात्मा. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sapna. It was very, very nicely chanted. Thank you. Just as illumined by the sun, an object is seen by the eye, but not what is not illumined, similarly, illumined by whom the sun illumines the eye, which is one. I am of the nature of that ever-existing Atman. Illumined by the sun, the objects of the world are visible to the eye when the sun illumines them. In the absence of sunlight, objects are not visible to the eye. But it is also true that the eye will not be able to see the objects even in their presence of sunlight if it is not illumined from within by the consciousness. So, this very important sentence, but it is also true that the eye will not be able to see the objects even in the presence of sunlight if it is not illumined from within by the consciousness. Illumined by whom? The sun. It is very important to note that the same consciousness which illumines the eye illumines the sun from within it. Lord Krishna has also said in the Gita, Atman is that because of which even the sun exists and functions. Not the sun which rises and sets every day, but that which controls the sun as well is referred to as Atman in the Upanishads. The sun illumines the outer world, but not the intellect. That which illumines the intellect is consciousness, the Atman. So what Bhagavan is trying to say here is, though we see objects outside, they may be illumined by the light or by the sun, but what illumines all these, how can the eyes see? How can the mind perceive it? How can the intellect operate? It's all because of the consciousness which is within. The fact that the sun can never be the illuminator of the intellect can be understood easily. The sun is not ever existent like the Atman. It rises and sets. The setting of the sun is experienced by the intellect in the light of the knowledge of Atman. Thus, Atman illumines the intellect to see the appearance and disappearance of the sun. Again, the sun can be eclipsed, but the inner light ever exists. The intellect is aware of the absence of the sun in the night or during an eclipse. So obviously, the sun cannot be the illuminator of the intellect. Sant Jnaneshwara has indicated a very important difference between the sun and the inner illuminator. The sun projects the world of objects, but the rise of the inner sun with the light of the knowledge winds up an illusory projection on the substratum of Brahman. I'll read that again. Sant Jnaneshwara has indicated a very important difference between the sun and the inner illuminator. The sun projects the world of objects, but the rise of the inner sun with the light of knowledge winds up an illusory projection on the substratum of Brahman. Sugar and its sweetness appear as two different words, but are actually the same. Similarly, Atman and Brahman indicate the same consciousness. Hastamalaka indicates that he is the same ever-existing Atman. If a doll made up of salt takes a dip to measure the depth of the ocean, it is bound to get resolved. Hastamalaka indicates himself to be that state where duality between the knower and the known is dissolved in the self. In the next verse, Hastamalaka answers a probable doubt. If Atman is untouched by anything, then what about going to heaven or hell for gaining the fruits of good and bad actions, merits and demerits? So we will continue to do manana on verse number 11, but basically the indicators for the Atman are three. One is its asangatvam, it is unattached. Number two is its shuddhatvam, which is nature of purity, and vyaptatkatvam, which is all pervasiveness. So these are three things: unattached, nature of purity, and all pervasive is the indicators of Atman, which is what Hastamalaka tells Shankaracharya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang with Dr. Kalarani Rangaswamy speaking to us about Devi Kalottara Jnana Vichara Padalam.
ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமணாய. அருணாச்சலமென அகமே நினைப்பவர் அகத்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சல. Namo Ramana to all. With the abundance grace of Ramana, we are meditating on Devi Kalottara Jnana Vichara Padalam, very graciously given to us by Bhagavan in Tamil. In the last satsang we saw, வெளி விடயம் பற்றும் விரிமனதார்க்கு என்றும் விளையும் வெகு பந்த ஏது. For a man whose mind always goes beyond the worldly objects, his mind will get widened. This makes him greatly attached to the worldly happenings. He cannot be a generous person. His circle will get shorter. He will be thinking of the well-being of his kith and kin only, and never bothers about others. He would keep everything for himself. However rich he may be, he will not be ready to part with them to anyone. Instead of giving something, he would be ready to grab more from others. In short, we may say, he will become a desirous person. Desire for wealth, desire for fame. Even a person who does not like fame can be brought under this desire for fame. I'll tell you an example. There was a person who does not feel elevated for his fame that comes to him. All in the town know about this. A stranger came to that town. Actually, on his way, he lost all his belongings. So he knocked the door of a house and explained about it to the family members in that house and asked for some money. The head of the family said, "See, in my opposite house there lives a very rich person." The stranger interrupted, "Oh, I should go there and ask for money, isn't it?" No, wait. Why are you in a hurry? I'll give you money, but you must do me a favor. What is it? See, that rich person is a very good singer, gives many performance. There are many fans for him. But when his fans praise him, he will not respond properly. He does not like people praising him. As he is a rich person, again he is giving away a lot of money for charity. Not only that, he is giving money for poor children's education. If we want to praise him in a function, he will not accept it. He will not get elevated by the fame. If you can break this and make him feel great about the fame that he is earning, I will give you money. This is the condition. The stranger went to that rich person's right, introduced himself as a stranger, and said, right from my entry to this town, I came hearing about you only. First, I went to a tea shop. There were two persons talking. See how Dayalu is that great man Shankar. He gave notebooks, writing materials to all the children in the town. And when people praise him, he was reactionless. Yes, the other person said, yes. In fact, he does not like to be praised. Then I moved on to the textile shop, said the stranger. There also the talk was about you only. They were talking and they were telling so much money for charity trust you are giving, and one for the upliftment of poor also you are giving in the town. And in many places I was hearing about you alone in the town. That is why I was with great enthuse to meet you. How can a person, after doing all these good things, remain unflattered? Is it possible? I can't imagine. I have my own doubt. So I want to clear about it by seeing you and tell you that I have never seen a person like you who is not a slave to the flatterer. At that moment, the person in the opposite house was seeing the reaction of that rich person. It was really glowing. He got elevated with the stranger's flattered words. So the mind, which goes behind outside objects, will at one stage or the other gets widened and will be affected by happenings in the world. வெளிவிடயம் பற்றும் விரிமனதார்க்கு என்றும் விளையும் வெகுபந்த ஏது. For the person whose mind is thinking always about the worldly objects will be getting some reason or the other to hold on to the attachments. Because of Purva Janma Pala, a Devaduta came to an old lady and said, see, Granny, your time is over. If you come with me now, I can drop you in Swargam. The party said, see, I have grind the dough, the maavu, dosa maavu, for making idlis just now. It will take 24 hours to get ready to make idlis. Give me that time. I will make idlis, eat it, and I can give you also, then we may go. Natarajan uncle used to tell a beautiful story. I just want to share with you. Once a guru left his shishya in a forest, in his abode, in a small hut, and said, do tapas here. I will go on Tirtha Yatra and will be back in 2 or 3 months. Shishya one day went to the river nearby to take bath. When he came back, he saw his langota is carried away by a mouse. So he grew a cat so that mouse won't come. But the cat needed milk. So the Shishya went inside the city and brought a cow for the milk. But who will look after the cow? Again, he went inside the town and brought a small boy to look after the cow. Now, for maintaining them all, he needed money. So he went to for looking for a job and he got a job in a shop in the town. The shopkeeper had a beautiful girl, so he got married to her. Now, the guru came back and saw the Shishya was not there. And immediately he realized in his Jnana Drishti that Shishya is sitting in the cash counter of his father-in-law's shop. His wife is walking on the terrace of their house and children were playing in the garden. So, such will be the attachment. Some reason or there will be there for making more attachments. So, when the mind gets widened, it will catch hold of one reason or the other to make attachments more stronger. So, what should be done? In the next stanza, Bhagavan says, வெளியே திரியும் சித்தத்தை திறப்ப நிலை உற்றேல். turn your mind, which is thinking about outside objects, inside, towards one's own nature. திரும்பி அகந்தனை தினமக கண்கான் தெரியும் என்றனையன் Arunachala. In Aksharamanamalai also, Bhagavan says, at each moment, let the mind be turned inward and get abide in the self. In that state, one can find no difference. If somebody scolds him or praise him, there will be no difference at all. When Bhagavan was in Virupaksha cave, a sage was very jealous of Bhagavan. As Bhagavan was very young, of nearly 20-21 years, he used to say, this boy is my disciple. And on another day, what he did was, he tried to roll a very big stone from Annamalai above Virupaksha cave on that Virupaksha cave. But Bhagavan somehow stopped him, and Bhagavan said he stopped him only to prevent him from doing that sin. Such will be the state of mind when it gets abide in the self. Because everything seen will be seen as self only. Ramalinga Adigalar Vallalar, a great Tamil saint poet, says, Hey Ishvara, Unakkul Nanum Yanakkul Niyum Irukka Kandeen. Then where is the difference? When there is no seer, where is the seen? What object can be seen? So let all be in that state of abiding in the self. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang with the sharing by Ujjwal Jagdish on Ramanacentre Bengaluru.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. We are meditating on the verses of Ramanacentre Bengaluru written by Ganapati Muni, and they have been compiled in this format by Bhagavan Ramana himself. And we have come to a new raga in Arabhi and the verse 15. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha Chechit Yoga Vidam Pura Saraiti Prajnani Buddhya Pare Chechit Yoga Vidam Pura Saraiti Prajnani Buddhya Pare Sadhu Kashchidati Tare Gurudiya Kepyangri Padmam Tava Sevante Ramana Vidana Manuja Shemaya Jata Chitau Dvitrastvam Girijanka Pita Nilayam Jananti Devam Guham Ramananige Loka Guru Vige Namana Ramananige Loka Guru Vige Namana Kelavaru Yogi Shreshtanendenisuvaru Jnani Yendenisuvaru Itararu Sadhu Yendenisuvaru Itararu Guru Yendu Ninna Pada Kamalava Sevi Paru Ramanankitane Manuja Shemake Bhuvijatane Viralaru Ni Girijanka Pitastita Skandanendarivaru. Ganapati Muni is describing Ramana. Oh Ramana, different people are attracted to you, and they all come and they are serving your lotus feet. Tavangri Padmam. They are all worshipping your lotus feet. And what are they seeing you as? Some people are seeing you as the one who is the foremost among the yogis, the one who knows the yoga. And some come to you with the thought that you are a great jnani. And some come to you that you are a sadhu who is compassionate to all living beings. They come with that thought that you are a sadhu. And some come to you as the master. Ganapati Muni himself came to Ramana realizing that he is the young Brahmana Swami who is sitting at Virupaksha cave as my guru, thinking that he is the master. He came running and surrendered to him and surrendered to his lotus feet. And we know that how he served that lotus feet by with the tears that were rolling from his eyes, and he did salutations, Ashtanga Vandana to Ramana, and he found the Upadesha, the first spoken Upadesha from Ramana. But, oh Ramana, all these people are serving you, but you who are shining in this world as Ramana. The name Ramana was given by Ganapati Muni himself. He says, you who are shining here with the name Ramana, you have come for the welfare of the whole mankind. And everybody are attracted to you in different ways, but only a few, and he mentions only 2 or 3 alone really know that who you are. Who you are. You are that who is sitting on the Shakti Pita of the Uma's lap, the Mother Uma's lap. You are sitting on that Pitam and you are rolling this whole world, sitting there, and you are that Guha. You are that Skanda. This only a very few people know, says Ganapati Muni. Sadhu Swami in Dhyana Pata says that you, whichever form we meditate on, Supreme will appear in that form. No name or form it has, pure silence consciousness. Ramana, who is the pure silent consciousness, does not have any name or form, does not have any identity. Yet, whichever form we meditate on, whichever form we see Ramana, he appears to us in that form. In Abhinaya Darpana, Nandikeshwara sings of the Sabha Lakshana. He tells, what is a Sabha? And he says, Sabha kalpatarurbhati Veda Shakopashobhita Shastra Pushpa Samakirno Vidvat Brahmara Samshritaha. He says, this Sabha, the stage that the dance is performed, the drama is performed, is the Kalpa Vriksha. The Vriksha that is wish-fulfilling Vriksha, the tree that gives all boons. And the 4 Vedas are its branches, and all the Shastras are the Pushpas. When these Pushpas, they blossom, the Vidvat Jana, they run and like the bees, they come and they drink the nectar from this Kalpa Vriksha, says Nandikeshwara. And when we see that the stage, the Sabha which is spoken, is not just a performing stage. If we consider the words of Shakespeare, the whole world is a stage. And the divine Nataraja is the Sabhapati who is looking, he is witnessing whatever is happening on the stage. And that Sabhapati is all knowing. And he knows everything, and he is manifested as every actor, and he is manifest as the story which unfolds. He is manifested as the stage himself. That Sabhapati is taking care of this huge Sabha called the world, and this world is the Kalpa Vriksha. Whatever we think of, it happens. So the Sabhapati who is Ramana, if we think of him as the one who knows the yoga, he is a great yogi. He himself says in Upadeshtaram, Hritsthale mana swastata kriya bhakti yoga bodhascha nishchitam. For one whose mind is ever abiding in the self, in the heart, for them they have already reached the pinnacle of Karma Marga, Bhakti Marga, Yoga Marga and Jnana Marga. So Ramana, who is ever abiding in the self, there is nothing called mind. If mind is there, Ramana says, it is like the full moon in the daylight. And such was his mind. And his mind, just like the moonlight, like his face. And the great ones, the great scholars, the Vidvajana, the Pamarajana, not only human beings, including the animals and birds, were attracted to him. And Ganapati Muni says, although they were all attracted to him, he appeared in the form that is dear to each one of them. Nobody really understood who he really is. And to know who Ramana is, Ramana says, if we understand our own true nature, understand who am I, then we understand that very same power which is shining within as the self has manifested as Ramana, who is none other than Khanda or Guru Kuha. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on the 108 names of Bhagavan composed by Vishwanatha Swami, the Ramana Ashtottara Shatanamavali. And we are on the Nama Srimad Dwadashanta Mahasthale Labdha Vidyodayaya Namaha. The Nama at a simple level, it means that Bhagavan, he got his education, he got educated at Madurai. And Madurai is being referred to here as Dwadashanta Mahasthala. We meditated on the fact that there is two in chakra sadhana, two kinds of chakra sadhana, within the body and within the cosmos. So there is said to be 6 or 7 chakras are perceived within the body, and then the remaining chakras in the cosmos. So the microcosm and the macrocosm. And the last one, the 12th one, the highest experience is ruled by Mother Meenakshi, the Divine Mother Meenakshi of Madurai. That place, Madurai, is said to be the one of the highest manifest experience. So the Dwadashanta Mahasthala, such a place is capable of giving the highest Vidya, because it is the highest point of manifestation. When we look at that, because it's Mother Meenakshi's place, the Divine Mother is the supreme in manifestation. She is everything that is manifest, is seen as Shakti. Whatever is manifest is seen as Shakti. The Shiva is the peace, the Sat and the Chit. The Chit is the first aspect of manifestation, and the Chit shines as Aham Spurana. Such is the Shakti, the manifestation. And because of that Aham Spurana, as we were told even today by Venkatesh Deshpandeji, everything becomes apparent, everything is known, everything is manifest by that. By that awareness, everything that is manifest is recognized. Without recognition, as good as no manifestation. So, it is that Chit Shakti, and in that town of Mother Meenakshi, Bhagavan played and sported, and he learnt as well. And while he learnt, he sported. Or while he sported, he learnt. We know of the various places which Bhagavan visited at Madurai. We know of the Alagar Kovil, where he went quite often as a young boy. And it's a beautiful instance of learning, vidya, learning. One instance of his learning is at Alagar Kovil, near Madurai, but it can be treated as Madurai itself. As a young boy, he went there, and there was this very delicious prasada offered over there. The Chakkarai Pongal, the sweet jaggery pudding, as it's called, the Chakkarai Pongal. Actually, the temples, the Vishnu temples, are even till today famed for their sweet puddings, and for the curd rice, and for the tamarind rice, which they prepare as offerings. These are said to be always very delicious. And so there is this Chakkarai Pongal, and Bhagavan got a small part of that prasadam. As prasadam. Prasadam is usually only little is given, not large quantities. So he got that, and he liked the taste of it, and he wished he could have had a bit more. That's all. Simple young boy wishing that he could have had a little more of prasadam. Then there was this next visit, and it was a longer visit. He was staying in the home of one of the priests, and there was a special puja. And because he was with the priest was given a lot of prasadam, so much prasadam that it had to be carried on the head when they went home, carried on a heavy brass plate. And who was given the task of carrying it? It was our young Ramana. The young boy, Venkatraman, was given the task of carrying this heavy load back to the house, which was far from the temple. So he had to carry it, and his neck was paining and his head was paining. But he felt as it was prasadam, it could not be put down. We talk of his learning, but everything in his life is learning for us. So here was his surrender, here was his thought about what is prasadam, what is coming from God should be accepted, even if it is painful or difficult. And he walked with it, he walked home with it, and he kept it down. By the time he is already fatigued, he may not even want to eat any chakara pongal. He was not interested in eating. And the family of the priest, they were not interested in that prasadam because they would get it regularly and in large quantities. So they hardly ate much of it. And he felt it should not be wasted. So with lot of difficulty, he finished the prasadam, and he said he felt all this had arisen because of his desire. He felt that was the lesson given to him by God. Dr. Kalarani was telling us about the desire. So Bhagavan learned that desire, even for prasadam, even for more of prasadam means actually grace. One cannot even ask for more of something which is coming from God directly and spontaneously, because if it is too much, we may not have the capacity to consume it. This reminds us of a incident which happened later in Bhagavan's presence. At that time, one devotee asked Bhagavan, we ask you for many things, and sometimes you grant those things to us, and sometimes you don't grant those things to us. When those things do not happen, when those desires do not get fulfilled, we understand it may not have been for our good. But we pray to you for the power to abide in the self, to be steady in our self-abidance. There can be nothing wrong in that prayer. It can be only all good. Why don't you grant that to us right away? Then Bhagavan said, even that must be for your good. But he knew the devotee was not much convinced. Still, the devotee did not say anything to Bhagavan. A few days after that, suddenly there was a lot of rain in Tiruvannamalai. In those days, the hill was quite dry and the terrain was quite dry. Rain would be something about which people would be very excited. And I have seen the excitement when the rains would come and the canal at the back of the ashram would get filled. There would be great excitement and a lot of activity in that quiet space of Tiruvannamalai. I also remember one very rare occasion when there was so much rain that all the roads were filled with water from the hill. The water was coming down to the tanks and they were coming through the roads, and it was like all of Arunachala, the Ganga on Shiva's head was just overflowing like anything, but that was rare. So perhaps on one such occasion, what happened was there was a lake called the Samudra Eri, which was a huge lake built to resemble the sea by the chieftain to show his queen what a samudra or an ocean is. And that lake had started overflowing. This was a very, very rare occasion. And so all the devotees told Bhagavan, we shall go on picnic there. Please come with us. Bhagavan said, okay, they all went. It is some distance from the ashram. They all walked there. And they could see that the Samudra area was overflowing. And then there were neighboring fields. And the farmers had built many irrigation channels, small canals, where they had contained the overflow of the water. And they were paddy fields. Now, paddy requires a lot of water. But then they had still built these canals. Then Bhagavan said, is not water good for the crop? Is it not needed for the crop? Yes, Bhagavan, it is needed. Then when there is this overflow of water, why have the farmers prevented it from entering the fields? Then the devotee said, Bhagavan, it's not that you don't know. The water has to come at the right time in the right quantities. Otherwise, it will ruin the crop. Even excess of water will ruin the crop. Bhagavan said, it is the same way. If you are not yet ready, it is at the right time that you must get the Atmanubhava. The Sadguru knows what is the right time. And he keeps the channels, the bunds, the water. He builds the bunds for the water and keeps it there ready to give it to you at the right time. Because if it comes all at once or the wrong time, you will not be able to withstand that flow of the Atma Shakti, and it would destroy the body. Therefore, the Guru knows in what doses the Atmanubhava has to be given to you. So Bhagavan, that lesson which he learned as a young boy at Madurai, that one should not even pray for more of prasada, more of grace, but leave it completely to the Supreme One. Bhagavan learnt that Labdha Vidya, that Vidya he got at Madurai, which he shared with all of us. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We now continue with chanting of verses from Bhagavan's Aksharamana Malai by Radha and Vallabh.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Omkara Porul Puyavilloi Murayar Arivar Arunachala. Avuvai Polyanakun Arulai Tandene Aluvadun Kadan Arunachala. கண்ணுக்கு கண்ணாய் கண்ணின்றி காணுனை காணுவதெவர் பார் அருணாச்சலா. காந்தம் இரும்பு போல் கவர்ந்தென்னை விடாமல் கலந்தென்னோடிருப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா. கிரியுருவாகிய கிருப்பை கடலே கிருப்பை கூர்ந்தருளுவாய் அருணாச்சலா. கீழ்மேலெங்கும் கிளரொளி மணியன் கீழ்மையை பாஷை அருணாச்சலா. குற்றமுற்றறுத்தென்னை குணமாய் பணித்தாள் குரு உருவாய் ஒளிர் அருணாச்சலா. கூர்வாட்கண்ணியர் கொடுமையில் படாதருள் கூர்ந்தென்னை சேர்ந்த அருள் அருணாச்சலா. கெஞ்சியும் வஞ்சியை கொஞ்சமும் இறங்கில்லை அஞ்சலென்றே அருள் அருணாச்சலா. கேளாதளிக்கும் உன் கேடில் புகழை கேடு செய்யாத அருள் அருணாச்சலா. கையினிற் கனி உன் மெய்ரசம் கொண்டு உவகை வெறி கொள்ள அருள் அருணாச்சலா. கொடியிட்டடியரை கொல்லுனை கட்டி கொண்டெங்கன் வாழ்வேன் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ 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 அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமண மாலை வாழி.
Namo Ramana. We conclude today's satsang with Ashtotra Puja to Bhagavan, performed at the Ramana Maharshi Heritage Campus, the meditation hall, by Sri Shankar Narayanji. And this will be chanted by Vaibhavji and Pratnama and Uma and Ashwini. We'll have the concluding song by Revathi Shankar.
नमो रमण. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योमि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः. ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः. ॐ गुरवे नमः. ॐ अखण्ड संविदाकाराय नमः. ॐ महोजसे नमः. ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः. ॐ जगद्दितावताराय नमः. ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः. ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः. ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः. ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः. ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः. ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः. ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः. ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः. ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः. ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः. ॐ तीव्राय नमः. ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः. ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः. ॐ पितुरादेशतः षोडशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः. ॐ तपोमयाय नमः. ॐ पुरासीनाय नमः. ॐ महायोगिने नमः. ॐ नमः ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः ॐ च्यूतवाक्यां समासीनाय नमः ॐ चूडिताखिलविप्रमाय नमः ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः ॐ गम्भीराय नमः ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः ॐ धीराय नमः ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः ॐ स्वराजे नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ ईड्याय नमः
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः ॐ विमलाय नमः ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः ॐ आप्ताय नमः ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः ॐ समदृशे नमः ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः ॐ सत्याय नमः ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः ॐ श्री शोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्छिन्न संशयाय नमः ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः ॐ सौम्याय नमः ॐ आत्मवते नमः ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः ॐ महाभागाय नमः ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः ॐ विनताय नमः ॐ विनुताय नमः ॐ विप्राय नमः ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः ॐ हृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः ॐ स्मरणात् बन्धमोचकाय नमः ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः ॐ शोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः ॐ गुहाय नमः ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः ॐ देवतमाय नमः ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः ॐ सेनान्ये नमः ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः।
ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यः स्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शनसुखमङ्गलमुख सकलजीवहितसम्मुख ब्रह्मसङ्गिये दर्शनसुखमङ्गलमुख सकलजीवहितसम्मुख ब्रह्मसङ्गिये नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानन्दपुष्ट परममहर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡು ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಘಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय।